Hi, guys. I want to talk to you guys today about something that's really important. And as an insurance agent, I feel like I would be doing my clients and you guys a disservice if I didn't have talk about this subject. Now, I know this subject might make some of you guys uncomfortable because, who wants to talk about debt, right? No one wants to talk about that. We don't want to have that hard conversation with our friends and family, especially our family, about debt. But it's a conversation that needs to be had because guess what? The inevitable is going to happen. We are all going to leave here, but we want to set ourselves up in a position where the transition would be easy on the family. We want to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row so that when that time comes, everything will run like clockwork, smoothly like clockwork. Now, I know it's not going to be easy. It's easy to say that that's going to happen, but it doesn't always happen like that. Let me tell you why. Well, when my father passed away in 2018, we knew that he was going to pass away because he had cancer. And, they have given us the amount of time, and the nurses were telling us what stages he was in. So we knew when it was going to happen, but we didn't know the exact date or time or hour. So when it did happen, when my mom came, and told me that, it had happened, I had already had everything planned, but my mom went blank. When she said those initial words to me, your dad is gone, my mind just went blank. I totally froze. Now, I had this big elaborate plan in place as to what was going to happen. I had everything written down, from calling the hospital to the funeral home to calling all the family members and getting everybody, that wasn't there, getting them there and just letting them know, what had happened. But when she told me about that, I was like, oh my gosh, and I just froze. And that's normal. That's going to happen. That is the initial shock of hearing that your loved one has transitioned. That's going to happen. It's normal. So a little freak out, okay. Just so long as when you snap out of the freak out, you're in a position where you can make things happen smoothly for your family. And all that starts with sitting down and having that uncomfortable conversation with your parents, with your family members, your siblings, or whoever the case may be. Mom and dad might think, oh, well, they're trying to get rid of us. They think we're getting ready to leave because they want to talk about that. That's not the case. You make sure that you tell them you're having these conversations with them because you love them and you want to make sure that they have the right celebration of life or the celebration of their life that they had already planned. Now, if they've written these things down and put them somewhere, if anything, like my mom, she kind of puts stuff somewhere and sometimes she forgets where she put it. So if you have the conversation with her and ask her, have you put this up? Have you written your final wishes down? If they haven't, then just say, well, let's do that. Let's talk about that. I know that you don't want to talk about it. And it's not that we think you're getting ready to, leave this earth. We just want to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row when that time comes. Now, after you have that conversation with your mom and dad, go to your siblings, have the very same conversation. Let them know that, we are trying to get everything in order so it'll be easier on your family. We don't want to leave our loved ones in a situation where it's going to be really, really hard for them after we leave, especially if they've gotten accustomed to a certain lifestyle. Now, if you have a family, a wife, husband, children, you live in a nice home, nice car, you guys are accustomed to a certain lifestyle. Well, when someone passes, the husband or the spouse, if there are a two-income family, one of those incomes go away. And so now you're having to operate on one income. Is that one income going to be enough to sustain you, to keep you in the posture that you've already been accustomed to? That's a question you have to ask yourself, because one of those incomes is definitely going to go away. Now, we have something called mortgage protection. Mortgage protection is a life insurance policy. Well, it's an insurance policy that you could take out on your mortgage. Just so you have a $300,000 house and you want to have it paid off, when something happens to you, so your family won't have to worry about that. Well, you could get a $300,000 life insurance policy that's going to cover your mortgage. It's called mortgage protection. So there are so many things set up in place to cover everything, to accommodate all of your needs. But the initial part is having that tough conversation, is writing down what your wishes are. It's making sure you have a life insurance policy. It's making sure your loved ones have a life insurance policy. And having $5,000 or $10,000 is not enough. I mean, let's be real. It's not enough. We're fooling ourselves if we think $5,000 or $10,000 is enough for to cover funeral services, all the final expenses, everything that goes along with the transition of a loved one. We have to make sure that we know what those things are. And so today, I want to kind of tell you what those things are. I'm gonna put my glasses on because I really can't see anymore, not like I used to. So the cost of a funeral, and this is just a breakdown of the funeral. You have the funeral home, and this is just the basic service fee, non-declinable. So you have to pay this fee no matter what. It starts at like $2,100. Then you have the transporting of the remains to the funeral home. When they come pick the body up, that's $350. You have embalming, $750. Preparing the body in other ways, such as makeup and styling them, getting them dressed and get them ready to be presented to the family, that's $255. Facilities and staff to manage the viewing, that's $425. There's so many costs associated with a funeral. You got the hearse, you got the service car, and a lot of families want more than one service car. Service cars start at maybe $150 per car. So if you have a huge family, just multiply that by how many cars you think you're going to need. Multiply that 150. That's an initial cost. And then you have the programs you have to have printed. The basic memorial printed packages is $175. And then there's the casket. Do you want a metal casket? Do you want, a vault? Whatever it is that you want, there's a cost for that. And caskets, let me see where I wrote that down. A casket can go from $2,000 all the way up to $10,000. And then there's the headstone or the grave marker, that's between $2,000 and $5,000. There's the funeral plot. There's the opening and closing of the grave. There's the spray, even the repast, all of those things cost. All of those things cost money. And so those are things that you have to take into account when you're getting ready to get a life insurance policy. Do I have enough? And even after the funeral cost, will my family be set up, for the rest of their lives? Now, this is the thing we have to think about. Think about all of the things that you spend money on every month that, once you bought it, purchased it, done with it, it's gone, never to come back. So let's just say you get a Starbucks every day. A Starbucks coffee is what, $4 or $5. $5 times, 7, that's $35 a week. But you can get a life insurance policy that could be possibly $35 a month. And guess what? You could have anywhere from, $250,000 all the way up to $1 million or more policy, and you pay that one monthly fee. Now, after you finish that coffee every day, that coffee is gone. Maybe 30 minutes, that coffee is gone. But you got a life insurance policy that you pay that same $35 a month for, and it lasts your family, a lifetime. You set them up in a posture that they won't have to worry about any expenses because you love them. You'll do that for your family because you love them. You can sacrifice, a cup of coffee or getting your nails done, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Just cut it down to maybe a month. Just cut it down to maybe once a month. And there's the fee for your life insurance policy. So these are things that we have to talk about. We have to learn how to get the best bang for our buck when it comes to our dollars. Our dollars are very important, and we need to know the proper place to spend our money that's going to help us in the long run. Enjoying all these short-term things, that's not going to last. What gives you peace of mind is knowing that you've set your family up to be in a better position, as than they were when you were here. Not that it was, a bad living when you were here, but we want to make sure that they don't have to worry about anything. If you have kids in college, there are some policies for college expenses. We want to create a legacy for our families. But all of this start with a very hard conversation that we don't want to have. And you could just go to your parents. Hey, Mom, what are you doing? I want to talk to you. And of course, she's going to say, well, what is it about? And then you just prepare her what it's for, just let her know. Now, Mom, we're not saying that you're about to leave here, and maybe make a joke out of it to break the ice. And then you go into, the specifics of what you want to talk to her about. And you can even do it all at have a family meeting and just, sit around and just ask everybody what they have in place. So everybody will know. And then appoint one person in the family, or maybe 2, that knows where all the vital documents are. you have to know, where's the deed to the house? Is there a power of attorney? What bank did mom bank with? Who has the bank account information? Those are things that you need to know. And a power of attorney can put all of those things in place. It will appoint one person that's over all of the affairs for your mom and dad. So we need to make sure that we do all of those things. All of that is very, very important. If mama got money in the bank, and if we don't know mama has money in the bank, the money goes back to the government. The money goes back to the government. And when you pass away, the government is only going to give you $255. I mean, come on, government. But that's the way it is. That's all the family gets is $255. And then two, if your parents are on Social Security, then one of the Social Security amounts go away. The monthly payment that you get, it goes away. So their income is going to decrease. So we have to make sure that we understand everything, all the aspects of life insurance and final expenses and all the costs associated, therewith. So it's very important. And like I said, we're coming down to the end of the year. Let's make sure we set it up right for going forward. Not wait till January 1. We can start right now. Make sure that we have those really, really tough conversations with our friends and family. And, just make sure everybody is on the same page as to the final wishes that everybody wanted. Because you can get to a funeral home and, those arguments would break out. Well, mom wouldn't have wanted that. And yes, she would have wanted that. And she don't like that color. Well, if you have this conversation with mom, you won't have that problem. Or dad or whoever, whatever the case may be. So I encourage everybody within the sound of my voice to just sit down and have that really, really tough conversation with your parents or your loved ones, because you'll be glad you did. And this is the cost for the funeral home. I don't know if you can see that. This is a breakdown. Now, if anybody wants this copy to show you maybe the average cost of a funeral or cremation or whatever, I have that information. You can call me at 601-672-0695. Or you can go to the website, www.journeyinsuranceSolutions.com, and check out what we have to offer. Send me an email and just say, hey, I want a copy of the breakdown of the funeral expenses. I would be glad to send that to you. If you want to have a free consultation with me to talk about what your family's wishes are, how much you think you're going to need for the family expense for their lives going forward, we need to have that conversation. We don't want anybody to be left in a compromising position or a position that is going to not be favorable for the whole family. Okay. My name is Brenda Myers, and I am CEO and founder of Journey Insurance Solutions. And I thank you guys so much for listening. And make sure you get that life insurance policy, and make sure you check on your loved ones and make sure that they have one as well. Thank you so much.